It's actually a very interesting time. We have high inflation. We have, at the same time, we have high employment. We have a lot of people who've taken themselves out of the job market, which I think is part of why the numbers are like they are. You know, they say, well, there's such a low unemployment rate. Well, there's so many people that aren't even looking for a job, so they're not even included in those numbers. There is a very high percentage of young people who are living at home with their parents. That's one way that they're surviving. There's still money left over. Remember, for 2 years during the pandemic, people didn't spend any money, and people were given a whole lot of money from the government. So between those, they were still getting paid, right? Or if they had unemployment benefits, they got high unemployment benefits. The unemployment benefits were the highest ever in history.
Wow.
So I think they had a lot of time to save money. I think they're still going through that. And now what we're seeing is that people are now going back into maxing out their credit cards. So they're going, oh, the economy's good. So when the economy's good, we can max out our credit cards. Of course, home prices are way up. And so that means that they can get more of a home equity loan. So I think what we're seeing is there's just been such an expansion of the money supply that people are tapping into that expansion of the money supply. On top of that, the stock market went up. So anybody who had money in the stock market, it's been artificially inflated over the last several years. You know, prices have gone way up. And so they feel like, wow, I have money, so I can spend money. And it's really, you know, I think the confidence is still pretty high. I think that's why people think there isn't a recession going on. But certainly all the indicators of a recession either going on or coming are pretty strong right now. And of course, the other part is that taxes are, they're such a major part of everything we do. And people are going to get, I think a lot of people are going to get hit hard come April. They think that they're going to get this big tax refund. I think a lot of people are going to owe taxes. You're going to see inflation continue to go up, because what'll happen is that you're going to have wage inflation, and wage inflation creates price inflation. And it's a nasty circle of things. So I don't see how they not go back to work, but, my kids are working, so I don't have kids at home. They are fully employed. And I think that shows up in your mental health, levels, that there's a lot of depression going on. There's a lot of mental health, and there's a lot of, drug abuse, a lot of, not just drug use, but drug abuse. And, that all is self-medicating, right? For those, because they're not getting it somewhere else. Well, the normal place to get it would be work, family, relationships. But people, if you're sitting at home playing video games, or, you're kind of withdrawn from the world and not productive, you don't feel worthwhile when you're not productive. So I agree with you. I think that not working is actually a very serious issue. Well, I think by definition, because money's no longer money, right? Now it's credit. As our friend Richard Duncan explains, it's now credit. So by definition, it's a bubble. To me, the question isn't whether this is the biggest bubble in history. The question is, can this bubble get bigger? And can it keep going? And I honestly, I don't know the answer to that question, Kim. I know that a lot of people, including Robert, think it's just gonna burst and everything's gonna come crashing down. But it's interesting. We've never had a world economy in the history of the world. We've never had a world economy that was based on credit. And so we're not based on gold. We're not based on crypto. We're not based on anything that we can put our hats on. We're just based on confidence. And so the question is, I think the difficulty is that if you're based on confidence, you have to keep that confidence going. So if you can't keep that confidence going, and the confidence crashes, then the whole thing comes tumbling down. And I think that's where it's really challenging in the economy right now, is because we don't have anything to fall back on that is really solid. Like, oh, well, I can fall back because I know that my dollars are limited by the amount of gold. I mean, that's something to fall back on. If I have 10 million, if we have 10 million foreclosures like we did in 2008, 9, and 10, well, all that's money coming out of the marketplace when those foreclosures happen. That's all money coming out of the marketplace, and you need money to continue going into the marketplace, which is why the government incentivizes debt so much. That's why debt's incentivized through taxes, because the government needs more debt because that inflates that balloon. It's not just the country, it's the whole world, right? The whole world is based on credit. It's not based on anything tangible. And so that credit is good as long as there's supply behind it and there's, people want it and people can produce it. A lot of inflationary pressure, right? I mean, inflation is pretty simple. It's just too much money chasing too few goods. So the Fed's working on not having too much money. That's the whole point of their interest rate increases, to reduce the money supply. But you also have the too few goods issue. And if you have this big supply chain interruption, and it continues to be interrupted, because a lot of people thought, including me, I thought, well, geez, by the end of 2022, surely all the interrupted supply chain from the pandemic will be back to normal, but it's not anywhere near back to normal. And that's that supply chains. You can see it on the grocery shelves, right? Or in the drugstore shelves, where half the shelves are empty right now. And it's, who knows what you're going to get when you go to the store. When you have that kind of supply chain interruption, then that means that you're going to continue to have price pressure pushing upward on that. There are some things that actually put upward pressures on prices, and significant upward pressures on prices. For example, we have it's good news, bad news, right? Bad news is we have $80 billion more going to the IRS over the next 10 years, which is basically double their budget, which will add a large number, not 87,000, like they said. I mean, it's 87,000 new employees, but that's not 87,000 new auditors. Let's be clear about that. So it's not as bad as that, but they will easily be doubling their audit force, and probably more than doubling their audit force. So that's the bad news. The good news is there's tax credits and tax benefits in this bill. But for example, talking about inflation, the day they announced that this new act would allow that $7,500 electric car credit to go towards Tesla, GM, et cetera, the car manufacturers all raised their price by, shockingly enough, between $7,000 and $8,000. So nobody's getting a reduction out of this. They had the $7,500 credit before. Now they say, well, now we're going to apply it to more people. So now what all the car manufacturers have done have raised the prices. So that's a little troubling when you see that immediate effect. I mean, literally it was within days of the announcement.